Okay, here we are one last time. My name is still Lisa Müller, and this man you might remember from earlier on today. His name is still KABUKI, and he is still a DMB pioneer.
Indeed.
For the DMB scene in the whole of Europe, basically. Started kicking the whole scene off when he co-founded the first, or one of the first DMB labels in 1996.
That's how old I am.
In 1996 at the age of 4. You didn't let me finish the sentence. Right. And you're based in Frankfurt?
Correct.
And Tokyo. You spend a lot of time there, I heard.
Yes.
And you're a teacher at the Abbey Road Institute in Frankfurt for sound synthesis, which is quite helpful for today. We've watched you show us around the mod wave a little bit today already. That was a spontaneous thing, but I can tell that the way you get your knowledge across, and especially your knowledge on modular synthesis, sound synthesis in general, is very profound. And the way you get it across is quite, I mean, it's really enjoyable.
Thank you very much.
What you've brought today is a setup of absolute newbies, really, because this is the new Poly Sequencer SQ-64. I believe it's available already, and it's connected to a machine that's everybody's been talking about and everybody's kind of waiting for. It's a reissue of the legendary, I think, 1971 ARP 2600 in the little desktop version, which is about 60% smaller, I believe.
A little bit,
yeah. It's analog. It's exactly like its older brother. And you're going to talk us through how you do it. So I'm very much looking forward to some music. This
Thanks
is KABUKI.
a lot.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Just a few words maybe at the beginning. So essentially what I'm playing today is a variation of 2 patches that I created for a video series that will be out later this spring, I believe, which is focused on the 2600 and the SQ-64. And I thought, or I looked for creative applications, because mostly I think the ARP 2600 is known for, like this big rumbling bass lines like Frankenstein, or the lead lines from Joe Zawinul. So I was very interested to see if it would be possible to get some kind of polyphonic material out of this, especially considering it's a poly sequencer. So you have independent lanes that you can employ. So the first patch I'm going to play you is, I believe the correct terminology would be paraphonic. So we have multiple voices, but they're all running through the same filter and through the same VCA. So it's not like a full polyphonic experience that you would have with, like, one of the Logue series. But also I think it's very interesting to approach this from a different angle. Instead of, say, I play a chord and each note kind of creates a expected reaction. I rather, in this case, went about and I composed, it's like a 8-bar phrase where each of the voices plays a melody. It's kind of maybe like some ideas of a fugue in there, like more like a classical composition principle. And this allows me to really look for these sweet spots where, the filter and also the mix between the waveforms creates like a very specific experience. So one thing to start off with is that it's very challenging to have each of the voices in tune all the time. So I just tuned it before we got live, and I hope it stays in tune, because obviously this is a real analog machine right here. And yeah, so I'll play a little bit, and then afterwards we can break down the patch, and then hopefully we will all kind of appreciate some new sounds from a very old machine. So here we go.
Whoa, Kabuki!
Thank you very much.
You did that. I enjoyed that. That was quite absolutely stunning. It was great to watch. I mean, I have to admit, I understood half of it, maybe, but it was great to watch you do it.
Appreciate it.
I love that composition at the beginning when the bass comes in. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's, I think, what I mentioned earlier, you try to really look for a musical application, like what's the idea here? And as I mentioned, I treat each of the three voices individually. So I have maybe we quickly break down the patch so that everybody also has an idea what it is that I've been doing there. So you can see we have the 3 channels A, B, C. Oh, sorry, they're called tracks in the SQ-64. So we have these 3 tracks, and you can see each of the tracks pitch output goes here into the keyboard CV input. All right, so this allows me to address them all individually. So if I quickly go back to the composition and then we listen to VCO1, we're just turning this up, VCF here, and then make it audible there. Let's see what I'm not doing. There we go. Let's do it like this. So this is the voice. This is the voice mixer. It goes into the sorry, this is the filter. Then it goes into the VCA, and the filter here is controlled by the ADSR.
Yeah.
So you can basically shape the tone of the sound, right? This is the amount of the ADSR added to the cutoff frequency. This is the cutoff, and this is basically how much I add to it. The VCA, on the other hand, is shaped to the. It's just a 2-stage envelope here, attack release. So that's why, now I can have an independent kind of contour in terms of the volume, how long the note lasts, and the spectral character. So this is really interesting because you can shape different things with it.
Right.
So this is the first voice. This is the second voice. Second voice actually has a little bit of a special twist to it because you need to also understand that like the standard input, all these channels are normal. So you see VCO1 has a square wave going into it. VCO2 has a pulse width, a pulse wave. So I'm actually modulating this with one of the classic circuits on the 2600, which is the sample and hold, which created the voice of R2D2.
Yeah, I know,
right?
I saw that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So we're making good use of this. We're triggering this in a 16th note pattern, and then we are, through the sample and hold, we're just grabbing every 16th note a value from the noise circuit. And this is then used to offset the pulse width. That's why I can get this kind of 16th note character. This is essentially the width of the wave, right?
Yeah, right.
This is the basic character of the voice.
Yep.
And here I can create a little bit of additional movement, by having this little 16th note pulse. So this is something I really enjoyed, that we have a chance to shape the second voice. And then the third wave, this is the bass line. This is basically playing the root note. And what I like to do, like a little trick here, I'm running this to the lag circuit. So the pitch out goes into the lag, out of the lag, into the pitch here. And then I'm able to make like a legato. Right?
Nice. Right, okay.
So then again, the third voice has a bit of a kind of like a different flavor. It slides into the pitches it's supposed to hit. So then to this I have these 3 voices doing their thing, and then I have a lot of ways to control it, Like one thing I didn't mention is this is like one trick I really love about the voltage processors. This is a little bit I think it's like not so well explored in a lot of patches. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm using one of the mod outputs. So I can create a value between 0 and 127. Usually you can, like what you would do with a mod wheel, right? So what I'm doing is I'm running this into this voltage processor here. And these 2 inputs are combined and then come out of this jack, the inverter. And then what happens is this, let me show you, this one goes into the keyboard CV. Normally when you play in a higher note, the sound goes brighter. It's the key follow that you have normally on the keyboard. This is basically also the trick that Joe Zawinul used in Weather Report, where he would invert the pitch, so he would play high and the pitch actually went down. So this is kind of a quirk of this circuit, Awesome. So what I'm doing is I'm running the mod input here. I have like a little mod pattern going, and then I'm adding this as the key follow, so to speak. And that's why you have these little. Sometimes the filter goes up and goes down, so I have already like a little bit of a kind of contour, like a spectral contour to the phrase, right? And if we now combine this with the envelope, with the ADSR, you have like a lot of variation throughout the phrase, right?
Yeah.
This is, I think, very important to not make it sound stagnant, because I think a lot of modular music you hear, like every note always sounds the same. And this is always like a
Right.
personal challenge for me. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to have this kind of variance. There should still be repeatability, but I want the timbre to evolve over time.
Yeah, it's kind of breathing.
Exactly. So this in essence is the whole patch. And a little trick I didn't actually use when I was performing is I'm controlling the KORG sequencer from the internal clock of the ARP. So what I can actually do is,
Oh.
so it's not the other way around, you know, actually
Okay.
he's the
yeah,
master
yeah.
in this
I
case.
would have thought okay. I would have thought exactly
So then you
the other
can-
way around.
You can do like a really... So this is the basic idea behind the patch. And what I did at the very end was actually, so this currently runs in the so-called, I think it's called chain mode. So I basically have these individual patterns. They're like between 12 and 16 steps long. And then I chain them together. If it's a little bit bright, but you would see the LEDs move across here. So then what I actually did for the last part is I just selected, so we're now entering the regular pattern part where I'm just selecting these two channels here. So voices 1 and 2, the melody voices, are just repeating the same phrase. And I'm switching the third voice into a keyboard mode. And now this becomes a chromatic keyboard, or in this case I have set it to a minor scale. And now I can...
Right.
Now I can just play along, right?
Right.
So this is just to show the flexibility you can have with this machine.
Awesome.
So you want to see another one?
Yeah, keep
for-
it going.
So let's break this all down. And again, it's like a little bit of a polyphonic exercise. And the goal for me was this time I wanted to have only as many, or like the patch should only be as complex as many cables as I have available. So these are all the cables that come with the 2600M. So usually like when I'm doing a modular patch on my system, I have like this very big rack full with like many cables and many great lengths. So I also enjoy to have like a little bit of a simplicity here.
So okay, the restriction, you get the natural restriction.
Indeed.
Is
indeed.
it pre-patched though? I heard it
Yeah.
kind of makes a sound when you get it out of the box. You
It's
can
normal.
actually-
That's the cool thing about the ARP. You know, it's.
Yeah.
I think it can be a bit intimidating at first, but once you figure out the layout, it's so clear because you have, you know, you have the 3 oscillators, you have the filter, and here you have the amplifier. So ADSR, AR release, and then you have the mixer. And what's really neat about this is that you can, at one glance, like for instance, I sometimes find it difficult with for instance, I have a old Minimoog and I love it a lot, but it's difficult at one glance to find out like what is the setting of the patch. So here you can see these jacks or these faders all control frequency. So you see FM control.
Yeah.
So if I were to turn this one up, it's on a very low pitch now. I have to just. There we go. So everything here that you see is directed towards the pitch. You can turn off the keyboard mode, set it into LFO mode. You can set sample and hold to the frequency. You can have the ADSR to the frequency. Or the VCO for FM sounds. So this is really so convenient. At one glance, you can see right away like what is the situation of the patch.
Yeah, it looks basically like out of a book for description of what what an
Exactly.
analog synthesizer consists of, really. But
Exactly.
still, I mean, to get to work your way through it is
All right, so we're
is an
gonna
art.
do something similar like we did before. We connect each of the tracks with the individual voices of the oscillators, or each oscillator gets its own little kind of note, so to speak. So it's not that they're all, because usually what you can also do, as these are normal, you can just plug in the keyboard and then all 3 oscillators get the same pitch. That is kind of the
Right.
standard application. You detune them or you tune them up a fifth or something like that. This is kind of the
Yeah.
standard
But it's not what you like doing. You don't actually like connecting a keyboard to a synthesizer. It's not the way your mind works.
But I must say, I love harmony. So for me, the analog synthesizer is the closest thing I get to have control over the timbre per voice.
Yeah.
This is really what is the kicker for me. So you can see it also very convenient. The layout, mod, pitch, gate. So we're just connecting these to the individual jacks here that take the keyboard CV, like so. And what I'm doing here now, a little bit different to the previous patches, I'm actually decoupling the pitch and the gate information. Normally when you hit the tone, like a key, you expect the pitch and the envelope to open pitch to change and the envelope to open at the same time. But what we're doing here instead is we are basically using this track D, which is a drum voice. You see you have 8 individual outputs. So this is not, you can't input any pitches there, but you can input triggers.
Yeah.
So we are now actually using something independent of the pitch to trigger the opening and closing of the envelope and subsequently the filter or the ADSR.
Right.
Sorry, the VCA. So this is kind of like the first step of this patch, and the second step of this patch is something I came up while I was on my way here, and I quickly set it up early, and it actually works. So let's see if I can reproduce it. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating, we're talking about paraphonic, about sharing the envelopes across all voices, right? But what I'm doing here is now I'm patching the noise generator into the amplifier separately. So now what I can do is I can control this mixer from the filter here, and I can control what comes in here separately. So I'm not activating the filter. That doesn't go into the amplifier. The filter goes straight into the mixer. Instead, I plug this thing here into the amplifier, and now I'm triggering this with a separate trigger output. And this sounded quite interesting, so let's see. First of all, it's again like a chord progression I programmed, and the chords, each of the voices is distributing, or like the 3-note chord is distributed over each of the voices. So we can listen to them one by one again.
Right.
Let's just... So this is kind of some like parallel modulations in there. That's why the tuning is very important for this. So this is the first voice. Just tune. And now we have this gate output, and this is now creating the rhythm. And the third one is the bass again. Let's see what happens with the... So now we have the noise creating a separate kind of... What we can actually do is, we can go through the lag processor, and then we can smooth the impulse. So this is just square.
Yeah.
And now we're using the ADSR as well, so you get these polyrhythms.
You built a shaker.
Indeed.
Right.
Let's switch to the other filter type. We have two different filter types.
Yay!
That's it. Thanks a lot.
Wow, I like that. I like the. It's basically like a three-part invention.
Indeed, yeah.
Because I like that three-partness of it. It's amazing. Is that as much as you think one can get out with this machine out of this machine? I mean, can this get the best out of this machine in your opinion?
I mean, for me, I'm not a keyboard player, so I'm not very proficient. So I appreciate the fact that I have everything in this small box and the proximity to the 2600M. And the funny thing also I have to mention is when I first got it, I thought, oh, this is really small. You know, I have large hands, but I feel like in combination, these two devices and also the kind of how close the faders are to one another, it really makes for a really cool kind of performance instrument. So this is definitely something I want to kind of explore further. And there's a bunch of really cool aspects of this that are geared to live performances. You know, for instance, I couldn't go into it. You can kind of create this you know, you can fill in the steps that you didn't activate, kind of on a random basis. So you can have like a fixed pulse going, and then you can always add a little bit of randomness and add different accents to it, you know, to keep it interesting. You have also, you know, some of the triggers I programmed there were also kind of with a percentage attached to it. So 50% of the time it might trigger. So I like it. I'm always being surprised by how this sounds and what comes out of it, and I have to react with it. So there's always a dialogue going on.
Amazing. I mean, it was great to watch. Actually, I know you haven't been performing as a DJ for a long time, but it's very much in you. Kind of, it's very effective, very bit of nearly dramatic. Actually.
Thank you.
Do you want to guys? Do you want to come round? Yeah. Because I know that this man has the full size version. Only if you like. I was just interested as Malte is using the full-size version.
Right.
He's used it in the concept of a live band, and I don't know why and how he did that. I don't know how it works and why it works. So that's really interesting. I mean, I would need, I think, a couple of weeks to just get my head through.
It goes really quick.
R2D2.
Exactly. That's an easy one. Just
start.
sample and hold to the filter, resonance up, you know, and Bob's your uncle. So that's really easy.
Bob's your uncle. I like that expression.
So you want to chime in?
I was just interested because we were talking about it earlier that you use the full-size version that's not available anymore, but you seem to have got your hands on it, whereas he seems to have got his hands on this, and I seem to have got my hands on nothing. Just mentioning it.
But you can now.
Well, I can. I know. My car is parked right there. How did you use it? I mean, these are like two different approaches, I understand. But what did you use the 2600 for in this pop music basically it's a pop music band context because it was real time. It was TV show related recording, and both me and Mike found it very brave.
Yeah, I mean mostly for effect stuff and but also sequences. I'm triggering it via MIDI from my Ableton computer, and then yeah, tweaking it live. And yep, a TV show is not like a live concert, so I have a lot of time to tune it. And
Right.
and
I mean, how often
tweak
did
the
you tune it in
parameters.
the course of this afternoon? It was-
3 times.
Yeah.
And
but it's in tune.
we
I mean-
talked also earlier about, you know, tracking, so we get into
Yeah.
very delicate areas, you know, is it like a tempered tuning you're after? You want to have a pure tuning, you know, like
Yeah.
once you are into like pure tune major thirds, then everything sounds out of tune very quickly. So this is also like if you have this kind of control over all these minute details, it's also important to figure out like, okay, where do I want to stop with this?
Yes. Yeah. And where's the point where I just say it's a part of the sound that is a little bit detuned? So
Right.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely. I can only sit next to you and kind of watch you learn.
Actually, I can offer this to you because there's this video series I just developed for KORG Japan based on the SQ-64 and also the 2600. So there are 6 videos focused on using this one with a small modular rig, and then like one larger composition, which also some of the ideas you heard are part of it. And I'm breaking it down. There's patch sheets coming with it. So as soon as this is online, you'll be able to really, you know, pause and replicate all the patches yourself. No problem.
Absolutely. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. Absolutely, it's great. It's not very heavy either. Is it?
And it has a real spring reverb.
It does. Actually, I did watch a video of you in your studio in Berlin, and there was a reverb.
Yes.
It was like this big.
You
A
mean
real
you mean
spring
the
reverb.
AK? You mean in
Yeah,
my studio
AKG,
in Frankfurt?
yeah.
So it's a AKG BX20, and it's funny. It's the only one I've ever seen with a BX20L. So if anybody has the same one, please contact me. And I actually believe this was created specifically for live concerts. So it has like a heavy-duty metal case, and it has like a little what you call like water weight on the top, so you can set it up level. So this was used lugged around for touring, and I can't complain, you know, carrying something like this.
Yeah, but the original one was
Incredible.
also designed for live.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's also kind of crazy because you see the big one in the big case, and you're wondering how people manage that on stage.
True. I think there's one question there, out of curiosity. How would you connect that ARP Odyssey to the ARP? It works just perfect. So there's actually one very convenient way. It has a USB input on the side. So you can, in theory, so you could also connect the SQ-64 via USB, or you also have dedicated keyboard CV inputs and mod CV inputs. So you can just, from the back of the KORG, you can plug it in, or you can, from the Odyssey, or you can connect the Odyssey via MIDI to the ARP. I also have this one there, the reissue, and they play beautifully together. So then you have another 2 voices that you can make good use of. And another trick also that I really, really enjoy about this is the external input. So this is also in one of the videos where I'm actually connecting the iPad, and I have the KORG sequence, a chord sequence, or like some chords on the iPad, on the gadget app from KORG, and I'm running it through the ARP filter, and it just sounds beautiful.
Great, I believe you. Well, it's indefinite fun, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
In my car. Like I said.
So you want to do the R2D2?
Let's.
While we're at it. Okay, so this is the way I always hear it is you take out the, let's see, noise generator output. No, we take the sample and hold output. So we are basically, this is like a LFO circuit.
Yeah.
And we're using the noise generator. Sample and hold output goes into the, let's put it in here. We set this one to self-oscillation. Let's see, what am I missing? Gain is up. And you can even have different flavors of R2D2. Check this out. So you have different colors of noise. So this is basically no sound source, right? This is just the filter and self-oscillation. And here
he used his voice with it, like in the very original sound.
And just love that you can have basically like a brown noise, pink noise, white noise, and they all have like a different.
Oh, I love this. Something about this makes me happy.
And of course, you need a spring reverb.
He's getting all excited.
And this is when he's broken.
Oh, I can see it in front of me. Great.
All right.
Beautiful.
It's a good way to wrap it up, right?
Well, that was absolutely beautiful. A worthy end to a very, very outstanding performance. That was very much input for me. I hope I have not forgotten how to drive a car. So I'm always afraid of this kind of. My CPU is a bit like up here. But that was it was great talking to you about this, and it was great watching you do this because you are like a source of wisdom when it comes to this stuff.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Amazing.
Signing off.
Kabuki.
Peace.
Cheers.